Hello, comrades. Commissar Bro here today with Aggressors. Ancient Rome. That's right. I'm sure by now you've probably already seen a video of this particular game. And I apologize ahead of time for the very loud bird sounds. I have all the volume turned down to about 8%, but those birds chirping are persistent, let me tell you what. Anyway, so this was basically a game from about a week ago that I was playing. I was playing it prior to release. And I've kind of been a slacker. I actually did a whole video on it the day before release because I really wanted to get it out there and show you guys, but the sound quality ended up being absolutely horrible, and I didn't find out till I was literally 5 seconds from uploading the video. So, as you can imagine, I have thus decided to not upload that video and instead do another one. So, getting right into it, Aggressors Ancient Rome is very, very similar to Civilization 4. I just want to go ahead and put that out there. It's got a lot in common with the Civilization games, and that is not a bad thing. Personally, I think Civilization is one of the best games ever, or Civilization 4 is one of the best games ever made. Now, I do want to go ahead and get a couple cons out of the way. Graphically, this is not the best looking game in the world, but that's okay. I don't really think that draws too much away from the overall experience. I mean, it's definitely not going to be Rome 2 Total War in presentation, but it has a lot of depth that makes up for that. I've actually seen a couple reviews here and there saying that this game lacks depth, and that I do not believe is true. I don't know if they played the same game I've played, but I will say this game takes a good amount of time to really learn all of the mechanics. I highly suggest playing through the tutorial. You may not want to. I tend to not be a big fan of playing tutorials. I kind of like to just jump in and play it, but there's a lot of stuff going on. So again, a couple more cons I'm not a big fan of. The music choice in the game is kind of strange. It seems like a mismatch of various music types. That kind of, some of them don't feel like they fit in with the ancient Rome era. Like there's like Middle Eastern music, for example, and the only part of the Middle East that's really featured in this game is right here. Like North Africa, and you know, just little bits and pieces of where Jerusalem would be. You know, there you go, Gaza, Amisos, Ailina, so on. So tiny parts of Saudi Arabia, and like these are basically, they're not even really considerations in the overall gameplay. So you would kind of figure that they might have gone for a little less of that type of music. Not that there's anything wrong with that. And then I've even heard a couple of tracks that sounded like Indian tracks, or even Native American tracks. Indians being in, you know, the Indian Peninsula, and or from India, and then Native American again kind of sound like almost like powwow type music. It's very interesting. It's a very interesting musical choice. I don't know if I entirely agree with it. The next thing I do want to kind of hit on is, yes, the pre-generated map does not feature England or the northern parts of Europe. It pretty much features a pretty large chunk of France, and then, I mean, you know, Spain. Well, here, if we just zoom out, you can kind of get a good idea. So it focuses on the very early era of Rome. So the Carthaginian War, like the Punic Wars, the wars against Carthage, and then, you know, the Iberian Peninsula in this case, or Spain, and then Italy, or, you know, Rome in this case. And then, as you can see here, creeping on into the east, like the Greek Peninsula with Macedonians and so on, and then Byzantium or Constantinople or Turkey, modern day Turkey. So, and then kind of like just a little teeny tiny bit of Russia and Romania and so on. Well, I guess you really get all of Romania, but whatever. Basically Ukraine, this would be modern day Ukraine. So, the map, and the pre-generated map is like that, but you can actually have randomly seeded maps, and there's moddable maps as well. So you don't actually just need those. Or you don't just need the pre-generated map. People can make their own maps and add on to it. I've already seen quite a few maps in the workshop already made. So again, I think maybe people are being a little, like the couple reviews I've seen have been a little rough about that. I don't think it's that big of a deal. And it features enough area that this is plenty. Trust me, the way this game plays, I mean, just how much I've done here, as you can see, where I've taken over pretty much all of Italy. I haven't taken over Sicily, and there is that teeny tiny little piece of land down there that's taken over by Carthage, but no big deal. We'll get that back later. And then taking over what would be Illyria at the time, and pretty much Massilia and Gaul. That's the part I've taken, bits and pieces. And as you can see, there's still parts I haven't taken because I'm in the middle of a war with the Gaelic tribes that are here. But all this conquering I've done has taken place over a period of like 10 to 15 hours. I mean, this is 10 to 15 hours of gameplay, and just on the pre-generated map. And I haven't actually gone up against any of the major powers. I went to war with Carthage very, very briefly. And honestly, I signed a white peace with them. They took this little territory here, and I kind of just held them off. I didn't really want to fight them, and we just kind of ended the war like that. As you can see, I think this is still Epirus as well down here, and I don't remember. I don't think we ended up... No, this is actually Athens now. They've pushed all the way into they've pretty much taken over all of Greece at this point in time. Did they take over Sparta? Yeah, they took over Sparta. Athens pretty much owns all of Greece and has kind of become a major power now. But they did not take over Pella yet. So, you've still got the Macedonians, it looks like, or Antigonid in that area. Well, no, the rest of this is all taken over by Athens. Except for, okay, so Pella and Thessalonica are not owned by Athens. Interesting. So anyway, we should probably talk. God dang, they pushed all the way into the north like that? Look at that. Athens has pushed all the way up here. They're scary, actually. They own that entire area down there. They've taken pretty much all of this coastline and then gone all the way up here. And that's pretty much where their territory stops. Is these 3, these 2, these 4s. Obviously, these numbers all denote cities. You can actually establish new cities if you want to. So, as you can see, I've got Ravenna here, Ariminum, or Ariminum. I'm going to say Ariminum. I know that's probably not it, but whatever, I'm going to say that anyway. Asculum, Perusia, and then we've got Rome, Neapolis, Sapontum, and Barium, and Paestum. So, this city here, I believe this city here, this city, and this city, or not Ariminum, that was already there, and that city, pretty much are all brand new cities that I've plotted down. Again, mechanically, the game is similar to Civilization 4. You can actually build settlers, and then those settlers can actually create new cities for you to specialize into. So, for example, Rome is currently specialized to create settlers and principes. So, if we go over here to build, we're going to get a list of things that we can build here. Principes and settlers. Pretty obvious. If we want to do that, we totally can, or we can actually change the specialization to make them create other units. A really cool thing that you'll actually see in the game as well is the more territory you take over, the more units you will be able to create. So before, I wasn't able to build warrior cavalry, hoplites, or axemen, but now I can, and warriors as well. Let's see, is there anything else? And nomads, those are also new ones. So by taking over some of the, quote, barbarian tribes, end quote, and some of the more Hellenic-influenced factions, that's actually created a scenario where I can make more units. That off the bat, I love. I absolutely adore features like that let you do that. And I've recently joined into a federation with Massilia, so now I pretty much control all of their territory as well as my own. But that brings its own problems. That means I take on all the wars that the Massilians are fighting. Now, this game has a territory conquering mechanic similar to, would it be like Rise of Nations or something like that, where pretty much a unit moves into a tile and it takes over that tile the more it moves into it. Maybe it wouldn't be Rise of Nations. I can't remember which game I'm thinking of. But regardless, it takes over that kind of, you take it over when you step into it. So you can actually cut supply lines to cities. Like these 2 cities here, as you can see, I'm starving out. They have no supply line anymore, and I've got units surrounding them. So unfortunately for them, they have no way to get any food into their cities, which means eventually they will surrender to me. The mechanic actually is stronger, in my opinion, than, say, Rome Total War, where you actually have to directly siege the city. You have to dedicate one army to sieging that city, and that's the only way it can work. I like this a bit better in the sense that each unit kind of constitutes its own army. So I can click this unit and then, you know, take over these tiles all around it, and that unit can basically just stand around and make sure they don't build any units that can come out and reconquer that territory, or make sure that if any enemies come nearby and they reconquer those tiles, he can make sure that doesn't happen. One of the things I will admit I'm not a big fan of in the game is I feel like the attack strength and defense strength mechanics, the actual combat mechanics, are a little complicated. It makes the game hard to predict. Some of your battles, you would think you have a 100% guaranteed chance to win. It might turn into a draw, or you might even get completely destroyed. Now, again, having the higher value numbers means that you have a much more likelier chance of winning, but it's not always a guarantee. There's other factors that play into it, like terrain, what the unit is trained in. If it's, or like as you can see how I'm hovering over, there's a terrain defense bonus, there's a terrain attack bonus, and there's various bonuses like that. Now, that in itself is not necessarily a bad thing. That's a good thing. But it still seems like you can have all the bonuses in the world and not win the battle, which seems strange, and I don't really understand it, and it doesn't feel like it gives you enough feedback to really, truly comprehend what it means. For example, we're going to go ahead and attack Segusio, and I'll give you kind of an idea of what I'm trying to refer to. So, we're going to go ahead, we're going to attack and take the city. Hopefully we take it. Okay, we took it. I think we actually just we burned it to the ground. We killed the whole population. So that's a prime example. I didn't really want to kill the whole population, but I didn't really have a choice in the matter. 40,000 people were just murdered, but I only lost about 954 men. Now, if we look at the various bonuses, you can see that they had a 2 bonus. And you take all of their bonuses into account, you would assume they would have a little bit higher score than a 2, because they had plus 50% from training, plus 15%, and plus 2%. So that in itself is a plus 67% bonus. So you would think it would be closer to like, I mean, what, almost, 3? It would be over 3. But then minus out the general morale and the army morale, so that's 41. So you would think the bonus would be closer to about 2.4, but it still kind of just goes down to 2. Now if we go and we look at our guys, a plus 30% bonus, plus 30%, plus 25%, plus 22% bonus, that's basically a ballpark of a little bit less. It's about a 90% bonus. Actually, no, it's a little bit over that. I can't count clearly. So like what, 110%? So 110%, yet that bumps my attack strength up to 5.4. It seems like that number should be a tad lower. I could be doing my math wrong, but it seems like it should be closer to about a 4.8, not a 5.4. But again, maybe there's something I just don't quite understand. So some of these numbers don't seem to add up in my head the way I think they should, and then it ends up turning into some battles are just absolute landslides. But at the same point in time, I may have all these bonuses and attack someone, and it turns into a draw, and they barely have any bonuses at all. So, you can kind of see where that's probably the one true complaint I have about the game, is I feel like that information should probably be a little bit more straightforward with what it means. And also, it would be nice to know, or if, in this case, I didn't want to burn that city down to the ground. I wanted to capture it, and I wanted to keep it. It would have been nice if I could have actually told my guys, hey, fellas, chill out, don't do that. But that's not really an option here. Anyway, so let me get off my soapbox and talk a bit more about some of the other features in the game. You've got a bunch of different resources, as you can see up here. This is gold, this is coal, stones, iron, food, wood, knowledge, influence, citizens, and happiness. I imagine most of these are pretty straightforward what each one of them means. For the most part, all of these resources are used for either building units or building buildings. The same pretty much goes for citizens as well. You actually have a limited number of citizens you can use, so you can't just spam a huge army and expect your empire to survive, because it won't. Now, influence is actually something you can use to try to convince a city to surrender. So, for example, I could use my influence, which I have a lot of right now, to try to influence Semilenum to surrender. It looks like their loyalty is at 82%. I could use it and make it to where they're more likely to surrender next turn. So let's go ahead and just use it and see what happens. Influence of Roman Republic in Sinaloa is growing, and the morale is set at 19%. Groups of powerful citizens lead a campaign in the city and steered waves of public unrest. So pretty much by the next turn, I imagine they're gonna submit to us, which I hope happens actually. And we could do the same thing with other cities like Aventinkum. We can do it to them, but it's going to cost a lot more influence to do so. And we don't have them surrounded, so at the same point in time, it kind of makes you wonder, should we do that? So I'm basically, right now, I'm resting up my troops. We've been fighting a lot of bloody battles. There's really only a couple of units that can still, like, handily fight. And we're going to put you to sleep, sir. We need you to heal. We need you to definitely heal. So you can actually put people into a city, or you can use recovery to help them speed up their healing. Or you can do a free self-heal, which only increases their power by 10%. If their power is that low, it's going to take you a long time to do so. So what we're going to do is we're going to put them in Stalia here, and once on their next turn, we're going to try to make them recover much, much faster, so we don't have to sit here and wait. Let's see, what else do we want to do? So we do have research as well in this game. I guess we could probably talk about that real quick before I get too much further into actually playing the game. If you click here, you can see there's some additional decisions to make. It shows you how many soldiers you have. It shows you your total population, which that is huge. That is absolutely huge. That is a huge area, and I'm assuming that means it's a very big economy. So regardless, we are doing very good, and we are making a lot of progress. So you've got your birth rate policy slider, which, again, you've got tabs on the right, which show you exactly what everything does. Pretty much you want to try to support give state subsidies to actually make sure that people are having babies. Thus, your population can grow. Thus, eventually, you can get more resources and more soldiers and conquer more territory. Makes sense. You've also got state decisions where you can do all these various things depending on the fact, well, basically depending on if you've met the conditions for them. Generally, these conditions are research. Let's see, elections are available when happiness is low and when there's enough resources and military support. For example, we could do games if we wanted to. It increases happiness while also increasing the usage of other resources, and so on. You get the idea. There are various decisions that you can do. And then you can go back, the Foreign Relations tab. This actually lets you establish trade routes, go to war, do whatever you want to do with the various people that surround you. It looks like I'm actually at war with the Dacian tribes. I'm at war with the German tribes. I'm at war with the Celtic tribes. I'm at war with Iberia and the Galaeci tribes. Not really know how to pronounce that name. So as you can see, we're pretty much on bad terms with a lot of people because we federated with Massilia. So unfortunately, they're making our life a bit harder because I was actually at peace with just about everybody. But as you can see, this, like, pretty much here is where my territory stopped, like this area here. And I added that whole chunk of territory to my stuff. But it doesn't really seem like I got a whole lot of troops out of the deal, which is kind of depressing because I was thinking that Massilia had a large army. Hence why they had conquered so much territory, but apparently not. Anyway, so taking a look at some of the other stuff, let's see, what's worth mentioning. You can change your government here. Each government has benefits and negatives as denoted here. It'll show you specifically what it does, if it increases resources of a particular type, or if it increases population growth or happiness or so on and so forth. I'm not really going to change my stuff right now. And you can change your capital. You have a very extensive research tree, as you can see here, starting from, I think, about here. Or, no. Where did I start? Yeah, I think I started about here. And I've gotten there so far. Research is very slow going, but the more research you have, it actually works as a resource, the faster it goes. So if you generate a lot of research, you'll actually get way more. You'll research things way, way faster because you can take that actual finite research resource and throw it into technologies. And at that point in time, like I said, you can get things done a lot faster. But that's also assuming you're able to do that. You can also skip various parts of the tree, which is something I also very much like. I like the fact that you can just kind of skip ahead if you want. If there's something in the far back that you're not all that interested in, then you can actually like I said, research this and move right along. It's a pretty cool feature. I like that. I like that there's just certain bits and pieces maybe I'm not that interested in getting, so I just kind of want to move ahead. As you can see here with transportation, I didn't really care much to research that, but I do care to research elite corps and make my troops elite. They should be. And finally, let's see if there's anything else worth mentioning. You can look here, resource usage. It tells you exactly how much you're spending. I like this too, the little history replay. You can see where we started. You can see the powers of all the people in the north and where they were and what lands we would eventually conquer. That's being denoted in the white. So yeah, and then we can actually press play and things will chug right along. Or we can just kind of skip forward a little bit to kind of get like a fast idea of how everything happened. So now you can pretty much see exactly how my wars went and what I was doing this whole time. Yeah, just slowly pushing my way into Illyria. I think it's kind of funny too. This makes it seem like I spent a lot less time playing this game than I actually have. But I've actually put a pretty good amount of time into this game. And then joining forces with Massilia brought me into conflict with the Celtic tribes, and eventually that's something I started fighting, was the Celts up there in the north. And unfortunately for them, they were not ready for some Roman badassery. And here we are in 213. So yeah, you get a kind of little time lapse there to see how everything played out, and you can see some of the other stuff going on. I really like that. It's nice stuff. The fact that they have it right there. Again, there's a lot of really neat stuff here in the game, and it's very much made for an ease of life type. There's a lot of ease of life features. Again, you can see a mixture almost of the original Rome Total War combined with Civilization 4 with a couple of other games thrown in there for the mix. Overall, I think this is a really good game, and I think it's an absolute shame that more people aren't enjoying it. But I feel like a big part of that is probably because they're just looking at the graphical fidelity of the game, and to them, it's not meeting that par. Which, I mean, come on, you got to go in with an open mind. Not every game is going to have AAA graphics. Not every game is going to be, you know, Battlefield at 4K resolution. It's just not. Especially when you start creeping into a lot of these 4X games or strategy games. There's a couple here and there that do pull off really, really beautiful presentations, but at the same point in time, it's not really fair to judge this game, which from what I understand was largely made by just about one or two people, as opposed to, again, a game that's being made by someone of hundreds of people. Like, it's a development studio of hundreds of different people. It's really not fair. Now, again, there's other people who've done more with less resources, and that's definitely something that occurs as well. But like I said, at the same point in time, I think you shouldn't be so hard on them. This is a good game, and it's worth your time, and it's worth your attention. If you're a fan of ancient Rome, if you're a fan of games that have a little bit more depth to them, then this game is probably one you should give a look to. One other thing I want to show you guys real quick too as well is you can go so in depth with some of the treaties here that you can actually choose specifically what you want to allow another faction to do. Do you want to allow trade routes, for example, or do you want to be brothers in arms? Like, you can be just brothers in arms, where you ally and you fight, or you basically declare war on anyone that declares war on your friend. Or you can just have unit visibility, or just supply support, or you can have all of them at the same time, or you can have any selection of the few. It depends on what you want to do. I like that. There you go. So regardless, there's a lot of really good stuff in this game, and I think it's kind of getting a bad rep. I think it's a lot better than what some people have said it is. And that's, I mean, maybe that's just my personal opinion, but I think it's pretty damn good. Anyway, this has been Commissar Bro. I hope I've given you at least a brief overview and a decent opinion of this game. I don't know all of the mechanics perfectly down pat because there is a lot here. Yes! This game features a metric ton of stuff. Like, seriously, it's actually kind of crazy how much they managed to fit into this game, and how many of the mechanics they kind of fleshed out in a way that can be confusing, but once you get it, you get it. So it's different, and I think that's the biggest thing about it. It's a different game, so you're going to have a different experience. But anyway, this has been CB. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.